Can the new Z71 version of the Chevy Traverse handle a little bit of off-roading? We got to find out.
Yeah, that's why we're here at our Andres Pit Onyx off-road course at Tumbleweed Ranch. We're going to take this off-road, see exactly how it performs, being the most off-roady Traverse that Chevy makes. Alright, okay, so what exactly does the Z71 package get you over a standard Traverse?
Well, a couple things. This car is standard all-wheel drive. We've also got a few additions to the exterior, like these tow hooks, painted red, because as Tommy says, if they're not painted red, they won't work.
They need to be red.
They gotta be red. We've also got a skid plate underneath. It's not extensive underbody protection, but we do have a little bit of extra. And we've got also 18-inch wheels with all-terrain tires. They're reasonably aggressive tires. This vehicle also gets hill descent control and a terrain mode.
Yeah, so some good stuff. You're not getting anything crazy like a low range or lockers or anything like that. To me, the tires are the most impressive part of this whole setup. They look to be pretty good. You've got a good amount of sidewall, but we'll have to see how they perform on some of our obstacles. Alright, okay, so we've got a couple different tests we're going to do. We're going to start over in Lava Lane, which is a good approach and departure test.
Yeah, and hopefully Ian will yell at us if we're about to take off our bumper.
We'll let him know. Ian, you're going to yell at us, right, if we're about to take a bumper out?
Yeah, go slow.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a test of approach and departure angle, also a test of traction.
How we looking up front?
Pretty good.
Not bad. I'd say this is even more. Ooh.
Keep going.
It feels like the front end's starting to
Yeah,
walk
it's
up.
starting to pick up a little bit.
Good.
Well, 7 inches is fine.
Front end is coming up. Now the harder thing here is our back end dragging.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're typically dragging the back end on a lot of vehicles. It's going to be the same here.
Nope.
Back up.
Very slowly.
So it sounds like we're probably
Already touching the
ass end
bumper.
in the dirt.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 minute. 1 minute.
Oy.
Hold on.
Yeah, as far as our angles on this,
Not amazing.
no. A little too much overhang for us to make it up Lava Lane, but
It's a 3-row SUV though. How much can you really expect?
yeah. You see the little imprint?
Yeah, there is a good imprint. And this video is brought to you by our friends at Onyx Off-Roads, the best mapping and navigation system you could have off-road, and it all connects wirelessly through Apple CarPlay to this Chevy Traverse. So go check them out using the link in the description below. It's an awesome app. All right, so under the hood, we've got a 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. And what are our power numbers?
315 horsepower, 317 pound-feet of torque. Like I said, this one is standard all-wheel drive, but other versions of the Traverse will be front-wheel drive, and we've got an 8-speed automatic transmission. Well, let's check out the inside of the Traverse. The first thing that you notice when you power this car on is it's got some impressive screens, especially this here in the center. This is a 17.7-inch screen. Super sharp. It looks really good.
Yeah, it's a pretty massive screen. It's got kind of this funky shape to it where it comes to a point over here, but super big. It's tilted towards me as the driver, so I can see it really well. Do you still have a good view of it from over there?
I can see it. It might be a little bit awkward for me to actually operate, but that, in addition to your instrument cluster there, both really good looking screens. I like that the shape of the bezels is a little bit funky. It's a little bit different, sets it apart. And GM in general has been doing some pretty nice screens. The other cool thing that this car has is right there on your steering wheel.
Yeah, we've got Super Cruise. So we've got this little white bar that lights up in the center. We've got a little sensor here at the top of the steering column, so it'll know if I'm paying attention, and this will drive itself on some pre-mapped roads.
Yeah, Super Cruise is one of the best systems out there, if not the best. It's a really nice thing to have. Now, on the other end of the interior, design-wise, I don't think it's a bad-looking interior. I think these screens are maybe the highlight of it. We've got this black and red trim that's here on the dash and on the doors, which honestly, to me, looks a little cheap and feels it too. And the thing about this interior,
yeah, It does creak.
creaky.
A little plasticky, a little creaky. You do have a Bose sound system, which is nice. So the tech's good. Take a look at the cameras real quick. Not bad.
Cameras are decent.
360. A couple different views you can go between there. You also have your rear view camera mirror as well, which is actually a little bit low on the resolution side. And then over here on my left side, I've got controls for all-wheel drive and then a mode selector as well.
Then we've also got nicer option seats, which are nice materials. They seem pretty comfortable. We haven't done a big road trip. And then we've got this massive sunroof, which is also a nice thing to have. So features-wise, I think this interior is nice, but there's a few elements in design and just overall feeling of quality that are maybe a little lacking.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm also not a huge fan of this piano black trim here. That this car's got less than 1,000 miles on it, and it's already kind of scratched up there. So
I'd say let's go up the logs and see how we do with ride comfort.
I am locked into four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and we're in what I think is the most off-road rock crawly mode. It's a little picture of an SUV going over two big boulders, and it does change the throttle response quite a bit. When I let off throttle, it slows down a lot more than just in its normal drive mode.
You can feel it actually make a difference, so that's definitely an indication that we are in the off-road mode. Now going up the logs here, we'll get an idea of how the comfort is. On some lower clearance vehicles, this is also a little bit of a test of clearance. We've definitely bottomed out some stuff on it, but it's more so an indication of how comfortable a vehicle is going over these bumps.
Right now is when I'm wishing I had a low-range transfer case.
Yeah, we're having to give quite a bit of throttle input to get the vehicle up here. But the comfort's okay. You can tell it's a suspension system that's designed primarily for driving on-road, with a little bit of off-roading here and there, which I think is fine. That's obviously going to be the majority of what people are going to do with this vehicle anyway.
Yeah, that made it up just fine. I mean, a little more throttle than I would have wanted, but yeah. Suspension's fine. It's definitely, like you said, more an on-road suspension system, but
as it should be.
yeah, this is not a car that's going to spend most of its life off-road. All right, so we'll talk about the rear seats real quick, and Case will demonstrate the third row in just a second, because this is a three-row vehicle. But in the second row, we have captain's chairs. They fold sort of flat, so you can load some stuff up if you need to, but more impressive than that is the way these pitch forward and slide out of the way. Good access to get into the rear, and then pretty comfortable spot to be too. I do need to slide my seat a little forward so I can give Case some room, but I've got an armrest here, separate climate controls. How is it back there?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not the roomiest third row that I've ever been in. Something like a Grand Highlander or Lexus TX is really going to maximize the space you get back here. But I've still got a cup holder back here. I've got a USB-C. I've even got vents all the way here in the third row. So comfort is not non-existent.
Yeah, and three across back there. So even though you've got the captain's chairs in the second row, it still seats 7. All right, so we're going up Boulder Boulevard. We're going to take a pretty easy line.
A front camera, which is a nice thing to have. It's like most front cameras, hard to get an indication of exactly how big the things you're driving over actually are, but something is better than nothing. So far so good. I haven't heard any cracking of plastic yet.
Nothing yet. There's a lot of plastic on this to crack though.
Is it still vibrating your seat?
It is, yeah. Constantly. It's really not ideal.
Park sensors off. There we go. Yeah, you do have to give it quite a bit of throttle.
Like I'm almost to the floor. Not quite to the floor, but pretty close.
Which is why, again, it's nice to have a vehicle with a actual low-range transfer case that's going to multiply the torque you can put to your tires by quite a bit. So something that's a more dedicated off-road rig will have that. So if you really want a vehicle that's going to be substantially more rugged...
I'm to the floor. And I'm in there's a little button on the steering wheel for low mode, which locks it into first gear, basically, and I have that enabled, but... Oh, come on. Give it a little bump.
Yeah, Yeah, so this is a situation where a more rugged Tahoe or something with an actual low-range transfer case would make a difference. And typically we try not to carry a bunch of momentum into stuff like this, especially when we're in a vehicle that's got limited clearance. If you carry a lot of momentum, you're even more likely to bottom out hard onto something and start damaging bodywork. So we try to take it slow.
You want to go as slow as possible.
Slow as possible, fast as necessary.
Exactly, and there we needed to give it a little bit of a bump.
Let's talk about towing and utility on this. We've got a power lift gate here, and while we wait for that to open, we can say that up to 5,000 pounds of towing on the new Traverse. So not a ton.
No, it doesn't tow a whole lot, but enough to bring, you know, a couple toys or like
small boat,
dirt bikes or that
couple
kind of thing.
things, a U-Haul, and then even with the third row up in place, we've still got a decent bit of trunk space. It's not going to be as big as a Suburban or anything like that, but you can fold those seats down, get some more space if you need it, and then actually a good sized cubby under here and a compact spare down there. So this is not going to be the most rugged thing as far as offering you a full-size spare, but we'd still rather have a compact spare than just the inflator.
Yeah, and that whole tub has 4 little knobs you can untwist, pull the whole tub out and rinse it out if you need to, which is cool for like an active lifestyle sort of vehicle like this. So yeah, it's got some good options back here, but it would be nice on an off-road or something with a Z71 badge to have a full-size spare.
Now what's going to be interesting here is the trenches. I don't really have very high hopes for this, because this trenches part of the course is fairly difficult. It doesn't look like a ton, but what this does is they're alternating holes cut into the ground, and so you'll lift tires on opposite ends of the vehicle, and when that happens, you have to have either a really good traction control system or some kind of limited slip differential or a locker to get through it. If you're full open differentials with no real traction control intervention, you're going to get stopped in place. So you can already feel we're starting to pick up tires, but it seems to be coping okay.
Yeah.
Now this is the steepest part of the course, and you feel we're pretty articulated there. But not a bad job by the traction control system. So it seems like the traction control on this is pretty good, but the lack of a low range gives us limited power that we can put to the tires, a limited amount of torque on some really steep stuff. And then of course our angles are only ever going to be so good.
Yeah, I think this is going to be great to get you to some really cool camping spots. It's going to be great to get you, to a cool trailhead, down some mild off-road trails, but you're not going to be tackling any real obstacles with this, and mainly I think that's not having a low range.
Yeah, I think that's right on par for what this vehicle should be. If you want a 7-seater that's going to get you to probably just about any campsite, this will 100% do that, and it's set up well for doing 95% on-road driving and maybe a very light trail here and there. And again, for a Chevy Traverse, I think that's right on the money. It's not going to be as rugged as an actual dedicated 4x4, and honestly not even as good as something like a Bronco Sport.
Yeah,
that's got a rear locker, center locker.
But for what this is, a big 3-row SUV, I think it handled our course pretty well.
Yeah, not bad.